Hello, and welcome to Deprogrammed with Keri Smith. Today, the day this comes out will be Thursday, and it's time for another Deprogrammed interview. I am very excited about our guest today. I'm excited for you guys to meet him. Some of you will be very familiar with him, and others like me will be learning his story as we go. I was really blessed to get to meet him in Orlando at Chrissy Mayer's Content House, and he's one of those people who some people you meet and you feel like you've known them for a while immediately. Other people, you know, your whole life and you're like, who is this person next to me? So I had an immediate connection with him. I really enjoy talking with him. Please welcome Vic Mignogna. And Vic, I didn't get to your
Hello.
bio. Hello. How are
We
you?
also have a hat connection, apparently.
I love your hat.
I love your hat.
Deprogrammed the community here. They're very used to hats on the show, and I know they're gonna appreciate yours. So that's just a
I
happy
have weirder
coincidence.
ones. I'm glad I didn't pick one of those, but I love yours, and you wear them a lot, and you look great in them.
Thank you very much. This was a gift from my mod Pirate Tomsky, all the way from the UK.
I was gonna
So
say, it looks like one of those caps I see in the UK a lot.
yeah, yeah,
You
it's just
should be
kind of a
throwing,
good
you should
like.
be throwing newspapers on people's porches, I think.
Yes, actually, when I met you in Florida that night that we did karaoke, Anthony Cumia kept calling me a newsie. Which I get a lot when I wear this, which is fine.
I love it. I love it.
So I neglected to introduce people to you via your bio before I brought you on. So let me just touch some of the things that you have done in your career, and then I'm going to have you fill in a lot of the blanks for me. Vic Mignogna is an American actor and singer. He voiced Broly in Dragon Ball films and games, Edward Elric from Full Metal Alchemist, Obito from Naruto, and about 400 other roles. He's also played Captain James T. Kirk in the series Star Trek Continues, which he also executive produced. It was his baby. He has appeared in other Star Trek works as well. And I know there are a lot of people who watch my show who are fans of yours from that series.
Oh, great.
Yeah, who've already mentioned it to me in comments when I brought you up in previous episodes. So I know they're going to be excited
Well,
to
whoever
hear
you
about
are
that.
out there that are Star Trek fans with me, I love you.
What does that mean?
That's a symbol from. Oh my God!
I'm kidding. I'm
Keri,
kidding.
you just lost 6,000 viewers.
I'm joking. It's,
No, I
my
that,
win.
actually, there's a really great story behind that. It's going to be super fast.
Mhm.
Mr. Spock used to do this, and it was a Vulcan greeting, and it means live long and prosper. But what's really cool that you, of all people, will appreciate is they were shooting an episode of the original series, and there was a scene where Spock meets a dignitary from his planet, and the script said something like they shook hands or they nodded to each other, and Leonard Nimoy said they should have some special greeting, and the director's like, well, what did you have in mind? And Nimoy went like this, and so the director was like, great, go with that. And it became iconic. And you know what's special about this?
What?
It's a Jewish blessing.
Oh.
Leonard Nimoy was Jewish, and when he was a little boy in synagogue, the rabbi would tell everybody to bow their heads and close their eyes. And of course, being a precocious little boy, he did not close his eyes. And he looked up and saw the rabbi doing this over top of the congregation. And it's like a Jewish blessing. So
I had no idea about that part of it.
Culture.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Anyway,
well, I learned something already.
Long story short, now you're a Trekkie. Now you're a Trekkie, and all 6,000 fans.
So I wanted to ask you, as a voice actor, how did you get into that field? Because it's so specific. To
it
do,
is, and it was quite by accident, Keri.
Okay.
To be honest with you, it's really, I have to say, it's totally a God thing. I didn't plan it. I didn't search after it. I didn't knock on a bunch of doors and send out a bunch of resumes and demo tapes. I was living and working in Houston, Texas in the late 90s. And I was working on a video production with a guy there in town. And he said to me one day, "Hey, Vic, you have a lot of acting experience, don't you?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've been doing stage and film and musicals and stuff since I was very little." And he said, "You should go and audition for this place in town called ADV Films. They buy these Japanese animated shows and they dub them into English and they're looking for actors." And I thought, huh, you mean like Speed Racer? Because I loved Speed Racer when I was a little boy. And he said, yeah, yeah, that kind of stuff. So I went and auditioned, and it was just this tiny little hole in the wall that bought these licenses and dubbed them into English. And I played a role in Street Fighter 2. And
I know Street Fighter. I used to play Street Fighter, the
really, I
game.
played
Yeah.
Vega. I was Vega in Street
Okay.
Fighter 2. And I thought, wow, what a fun little weird one-time random experience to get to do. And a few weeks later, they called me back and asked me if I wanted to play a role in another show called Evangelion. And I was like, sure. And then another and another and another and another. And it just kind of snowballed from there. I started meeting directors and producers from other studios around Texas, in LA, in New York. They invited me to come and play roles in their shows. And now 20 some years later, I've done more than 400. It was quite an accidental blessing. I'm very grateful for.
Were you always, as a child, were you interested in the arts? Because you also, I don't know if you've done it professionally, but I'll say, having been to karaoke with you, you're one of those people, you have a great voice.
Oh,
And
thanks.
those of us who don't,
Oh,
uh,
stop.
we go up in between. We're like, I gotta go after him. No. So,
No, no, no.
did you sing and stuff when you were younger? Were
Yes.
you always in the arts?
Yes. In fact, I'm more than singing. I don't consider myself a great singer, but I am a composer and songwriter and
Oh,
producer and
great.
arranger. So music, I've been doing music twice as long as I've been voice acting. Um, so if you do the math, it's a
Yeah.
long time, and I'm very old. But I write and produce music professionally. I did that long before voice acting. I have 6 original music CDs on iTunes of all original stuff. I
Mhm.
play the piano, I produce and arrange, and um, ever since I was young, I always enjoyed performing. And it was
Yeah.
actually because of Star Trek. I discovered that show when I was 9, 10, 11, and I wanted to act because I enjoyed what William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy and those actors in that show were doing. I loved the way they moved me with their storytelling and the themes and the messages. And so I ended up going to school and auditioning for school plays and church plays and community theater, and went to drama camps and all kinds of crazy stuff. So
Mhm.
I've always really enjoyed many elements of performance.
What is it about performance that you enjoy? And I ask this because I used to work with comedians, and one comic once mentioned it to me about the relationship between the artist and the audience, and how it's like a tennis match.
Hmm.
That a lot of people think of the artist as just up there doing their thing, and the audience is just, they're not a part of it. But he was saying, no, you need that
Oh, the
ball to go
audience
back and
is a
forth.
big part of it. In fact, if you're a good performer, you will be incredibly tuned into your audience. You will draw from them and their reactions to what you're doing and saying, and adapt very quickly to, to your audience. So a good performer will always be incredibly aware of his audience. For me, you know, this is going to be kind of a lame answer, but I think it's true. My parents divorced when I was 9.
Mhm.
My dad didn't seem to care much about having a son. And I think that contributed in large part to feeling insecure, to feeling undervalued, to feeling unworthy of love
Mm,
from the people that are supposed to love you the most, if you know
yeah.
what I mean. And I think that that in turn encouraged me to gravitate toward fields where people
Yeah.
appreciated you and praised you for your skills or your talents, I would bet that a lot of people get into performing arts because of that, because something happened in their lives very young, or even maybe during their formative years, maybe even as an adult, that made them feel undervalued, or made them feel like they weren't very validated,
Underappreciated.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I know we're going to talk about cancel culture and stuff, and I think that is, honestly, I feel very strongly, Keri, that is exactly the same catalyst.
Mm.
It's people who feel undervalued, people who feel lonely, people who feel unappreciated, not noticed, not relevant. And the only difference is they choose something hurtful and negative to get attention, instead of working to develop talents or skills or abilities
Mhm.
that can make people go, wow, you're really good at that, and be praised for doing something good,
Yeah.
praised for giving something to the world that's positive, instead of being noticed for whose career they ruin,
For
or,
tearing people
or
down.
yeah, or being getting a lot of posts on, or a lot of likes, or a lot of notices on the internet for who they're tearing to shreds, or who they're, you know, causing trouble for.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that now. So you've had an experience with cancel culture. Um,
Yeah,
that's
an experience would be
an
an understatement.
experience. You've been touched. It's
Yeah,
just really
that's like
minimizing.
saying that's like saying, Mr. Shatner, you've dabbled in science fiction, haven't you?
Let's get into it. For anybody who doesn't know your story, and I'm sure you've had to talk about this before, and so you can talk about it at great length if you want, or just give me the broad strokes of what's
I,
happened to
I think
you.
I'll give you the broad
Yeah,
strokes, because I really don't cherish talking about it much.
yeah,
It was arguably the most painful thing in my life.
yeah.
Um, um, in a nutshell, 4 years ago, this upcoming January 16th, 2019, I was happy as a clam. I had just played the title role in a new Dragon Ball movie called Dragon Ball Super Broly, and I'm Broly, and I've played Broly for 15 plus years in 3 different movies and dozens of video games. And I was so excited that Broly was finally getting a remake, and a reimagining, and was the main character of this movie. I had 35 or 40 convention appearances lined up with all of the major Comic Cons that I had been a regular at for many, many years. 2019 was going to probably be the best year of my life.
Mm.
I got out of I got out of a relationship that I shouldn't have been in.
I know what that's like.
I got out of a city that I hated and didn't want to live in. And 2019 was shaping up to be like the best year ever. January 16th, 2019, the Broly movie premiered. That was the day it was released in theaters. And that was also the day that a handful of people on Twitter decided to start attacking me.
Mm.
And don't think for a minute that was an accident. Clearly, these people knew that I would be getting a lot of publicity. A lot of people would be Googling my name and seeing stories and articles and advertisements about the new Broly movie. And they weren't wrong, because this movie grossed more than 3 times what any other Dragon Ball movie ever has.
Had done.
And so they started on Twitter accusing me of all kinds of absurd things. And I tried my best to take it in stride, because you probably get hate. Do you get hate?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Most people that ever aspire to put themselves out there, most people that ever accomplish anything of any degree,
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be Johnny Depp level. You know what I mean? If you accomplish anything to any degree, there are going to be people out there that can't stand that you succeeded or that you're getting all this attention that they wish they had. And so I tried to take it in stride because I had gotten it before. But what really changed it and escalated the problem was that a couple of voice actors who, incidentally, I had known for decades and we had been friends. If you had asked me, are you guys friends? Without hesitation, I would have said, oh my gosh, yes. We've done hundreds of shows together. We've done conventions together. We've had dinners together. We've gone bowling together. We've hung out. They cut my hair. We're friends. We're friends.
Mhm.
Never an argument, never a harsh word between us. But a couple of voice actors came out and basically grabbed some stories from literally 10 and 15 years ago that they twisted and embellished for their own purposes. And it was like pouring gas on a fire.
Mhm. The gist of
And
it, of
then
what I've
I'm sorry. Let
Can
me
I
just
interrupt? Yeah.
Sure, sure. No, go ahead, please.
Well, the gist of it, so people know what we're talking about, that I read, was it was 10 or 15-year-old stories of one there was one central one of a female coworker who said you basically came on to her at a convention, and it made her uncomfortable.
Yeah, which, by the way, I'd like to remind everybody is not a crime.
Right.
I'd like
I
to
mean,
remind all of you that normal men show interest in women. I don't know if you know that, but since the beginning of time,
mhm,
men who maybe find a woman attractive may, compliment them or offer to take them to dinner or show some interest. But I'll tell you one thing, Keri, right now,
mhm.
I swear on our hats, I am way too insecure to ever force myself on anybody. I'm the kind of person that if you and I were to go out on a date, Keri, I would spend all evening keeping my distance. And at the end of our date, I would make 99.99% sure that you were sending me the vibes that you wanted me to kiss you goodnight before I would ever make an attempt to do so. Because if I were to be rejected, I mean, think about what we talked about with what got me into performing.
Rejection.
You don't want to be rejected. So you don't do things where people can go, no, get away from me. No, no. What are you doing? So I'm the kind of person who would I would have already received vibes
Mhm.
that someone is attracted to me before I would ever make an overture of interest in return. That's who I am. And anybody who knows me knows that's true.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what happened. They claimed that I made some overtures toward them, which, again, that's not a crime. There are no charges to charge someone with that. It doesn't exist.
Mhm.
But you see, that's the horrible part of social media. You don't have to prove anything.
You don't.
You don't have to demonstrate any truth, any facts. There's no accountability. You can say whatever you want. You could ruin someone from thousands of miles away, someone you've never met. Because you know what, Keri? After these few people that were coworkers for many years, incidentally, one of them I had seen 1 week earlier in the studio, and they said, hey, sweetie, and hugged me with a big smile. The same person who 1 week later was on the internet saying that they wanted my balls in a sling and they wanted my head on a stake.
Wow.
What kind of human being is that? I don't even know. I can't even conceive of the workings of somebody like that. But back to what I was saying.
Mhm.
When that happened, that just threw gas on the fire. The next thing I knew, it just started this snowball from hell. And a studio that I'd worked with for 20 years terminated my employment. They they replaced me in all the roles I was playing. And mind you, no proof of any wrongdoing, no charges of anything, much less convictions for anything. And then all of those conventions that I had lined up started canceling me. I mean, like every day it was one or two more. And I sat in my house paralyzed.
Did
Like
you try
I had
to
no idea what to do. I posted an apology
Mhm.
and I said, I never in a million years would ever have any desire to offend or hurt anyone. That's not who I am. Anybody who knows me knows that. For God's sake, watch any number of videos or interactions on the internet, thousands of them over the years. I'm not a forceful person. I'm not a hateful person. I'm not a mean-spirited person. I certainly would never want to hurt anybody.
Mhm.
And so I posted an apology just basically saying, I am so sorry if I ever inadvertently offended you. And it just kept escalating, Keri.
Yeah.
Like one person would say, he, you know, he came on to me at an event we were at and it made me uncomfortable. And then the next thing you know, some fan who feels invisible and wants to get on the bandwagon, wants to get some attention for themselves, Me Too time,
Yeah.
jumps in is like, oh, I went to meet him at a convention and he put his arm around me when we took the picture, which everybody does.
I saw that. By the way, I saw a lot of that, and it made me think of, Al Franken. I don't know if you remember when he had his Me Too sort of cancellation,
Yeah.
and a lot of his started in a sort of similarly in that, an old photo from I think the 90s when he was on a USO comedy tour, where a fellow comedian or someone who was on the trip with him, she was asleep, and he took one of those silly joke pictures
Oh,
that's
yeah.
where he had his hands reaching out like he was pretending to grope her while she was sleeping, which obviously you take a photo like that, it's a joke. You're like it's, she's sleeping. Look, haha, that you show her later. And so she had pulled this out of the depths of, many years and was like, look at what he did to me. And then there were all of these stories that started coming out and pictures of women at events where they were fans or what have you, where he had an arm around them. And I remember one of them, a woman said, look, he took this picture with me and he put his hand on the small of my back. And I don't even let my husband put his hand on the small of my back in public because it shows ownership and it's the patriarchy, etc. And I just remember thinking, this is so crazy. Like when you go into the actual specifics of what people are alleging happened, you've got the original person who does the thing, which there are reasons for why that person might have done that. Like I don't know, maybe in Al Franken's case, she didn't like his politics anymore, or maybe who knows why, or she
Yeah.
felt invisible, or it did make her uncomfortable all those years ago, but she didn't deal with it or say anything until now. Who knows why? But then you have all these people who pile on. And I noticed that in your case where there were lots of fans at conventions who are like, yeah, he hugged me, or he kissed me on the cheek, or he did this and it made me feel uncomfortable. And that to me is just it's
Can
the
I
mobbing.
can I comment on that?
Yeah, sure.
Keri, if you and I were in a room,
Mhm.
I would give you $1,000 if you could kiss my cheek without me allowing you to. Try. Just try. Try hugging
Yeah.
somebody who doesn't want to be hugged.
Yeah.
Do you see my point?
Yes.
The thing you just said about the woman in the small of her back. I have an idea, lady. Take a step to the side.
Right.
See,
Right.
see my
And
point?
she clearly
Like, do
saved the
something. Say, excuse me, and it's done. What are you, 6 years old? You know what I mean? We're grown-ups. Be an adult. Take ownership of, I'm a grown-up. I don't appreciate that. You know what? I'm going to say it again. I have never forced myself on anybody, Keri. I have taken tens of thousands of photos with fans. And by the way, they weren't in private spaces. There were 200 people standing there in a line, all in
Yeah.
plain view. There was a handler representative from the convention right here sitting with me. In fact, there was somebody taking the picture.
Mm-hmm.
It was all in plain view. It was not nefarious. It was not dark or pervy. I just put my arm around him to take a photo, and 999 people out of 1,000 appreciate that kind of openness and kindness.
Mm-hmm.
And that one person, all they'd have to do is say, I'm cool without a hug. Or is it okay we don't hug? What do you think I'm going to say? Of course, it's fine. I
Right.
would never want to make somebody uncomfortable. But these people who come back years later, you know what? I saw a tweet. Keri, you're not going to believe this. I literally saw a tweet that said, from a fan, that said, I met Vic 10 years ago when I was 14, and when he signed something for me, and we took a picture, and he put his arm around my shoulder for the picture, and at the time I thought it was the greatest day of my life, and now I think it's creepy. I'm sorry, you can't do that. You can't decide to retroactively decide that 10 years ago you didn't like that somebody showed kindness toward you or openness toward you for a photo. I have never groped anybody in my life. I've never slapped people on the butt, grabbed their breasts, groped anything ever at any of these public conventions. I don't do it. And the very fact that there are hundreds of video cameras rolling at all times and you can't find one frame, one
Mm-hmm.
example. In fact, people were making Photoshops and trying to doctor photos. Someone even posted a picture of me taking a picture with a fan, and again, hundreds of people everywhere, right out in public, nothing seedy, nothing private. And the fan themselves came online and said, my mother took that photo and I was fine with it. How dare you use my photo
Mm-hmm.
for your little campaign of hatred against this guy?
Yeah. Can I give you a moment of levity?
Please.
When that happened to Al Franken, I had met him and I was a big fan of his years prior. So I posted the picture of us together and with hashtag why not me. Only because it was so
Great.
silly.
That's
And
great.
then I did have some people, most people, they understood the joke, and the jokes, by the way, I'm the butt of that joke. But if you don't get it.
No, I get it, but I think it's awesome.
But there were, most people thought it was funny, but there were a few who were like, "How dare you make fun of Me Too, and how dare you make fun of, his victims?" And I was like, "Because I actually, each time there's one of these cancellations or something, if it's one I'm interested in learning more about, I'll read everything, and I don't always come to the same conclusion." But in his case, I was like, "No, this is nonsense." And I felt the same way about yours. Can I ask you, I know there's so many directions we could go here with this, but just quickly about the ramifications to your careers. You had all these conventions who were canceling you. You had the studio who terminated the contract. Did you get any of the, I think there's people do this for different reasons. They decide to distance themselves out of fear or what have you. Did you ever have any of those convention owners tell you like, hey, sorry, were they
Yeah.
apologetic at all?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
Keri, I had great relationships with many of these organizers. I mean, first name basis, going out to dinner if I was in their city, unrelated to the convention. I considered a lot of these people, and still do, friends. We had done a lot of work together. We'd spent a lot of time together. We were friends, and several of them said, "Look, I'm sorry. I don't believe I've known you for 10 years, Vic. You've been at 10 of my conventions over the years, and there's never been a complaint. There's never been a problem. I've never had an issue at all with you. But I'm afraid. I'm afraid of these people online that make all of this negative noise and throw all this shade. And I was thinking this weekend I was in Orlando at an event.
Mm.
And it was huge. Like, I don't mean overall attendance. I mean, the turnout that I had there was incredible. And I'm so incredibly grateful for everybody that came out. It was amazing. I sat down at my table at 10 a.m. and there was already a line to the back of the building, and I never left the table till 5 p.m.
Wow.
It was a great turnout, and that's the reality of the events, that there are millions of great positive fans out there that don't buy into this cancel culture stuff. And then there are 15 or 20 on the other side of it who make so much noise.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know what else they do with their lives. They must not have like full-time jobs or relationships or hobbies or interests, because they just wait to see me announced doing anything. And they start this campaign of hate and cancel. And I'm like, what do you get out of this? You know, I try to put myself in their shoes and I don't understand, Keri. You know, I mean, if I go to an event, the organizer wins because he sells tickets and he makes his attendees happy. The attendees win, right? Because hundreds of them like my work and they want to meet me. I win because I get to meet them and maybe make a little money to pay my bills. We all win.
Mm.
If they cancel me, who wins? Nobody.
Fear.
Nobody.
Yeah.
All of those hundreds of people don't get the opportunity to meet somebody whose work they enjoyed. The organizer doesn't sell more tickets to attendees that wanted to meet me. He doesn't give his attendees what they're requesting. I'm requested regularly at a lot of these big events, and I used to be a regular at a lot of them. I'd like to think I kind of helped build them all these years, and grow them. And so they ignore their attendees. They don't give their attendees what they request. They don't sell extra tickets. The attendees lose. The organizer lose. I lose. So the only person who wins is the hater.
Yeah.
So is that what we want? Do we want to reward these haters by empowering them? And there are 5 or 10 of them as opposed to 500 attendees. And I don't really understand, you know, the logic behind it. It certainly doesn't make any business sense. But let me finish real quick
Yeah.
my story. I stopped
Yeah.
with I issued an apology.
Mm-hmm.
And I basically said, look, any of you guys who know me know that I would never intentionally want to offend anybody or hurt anybody's feelings. I deeply apologize. Well, guess what that did, Keri?
What?
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
You know why? Because these people didn't want an apology. They wanted to destroy me. They weren't interested in helping me. They weren't interested in, you know, in getting me to apologize for something. They didn't care that I was sorry or that I apologized, because they just kept at it. They kept at it and kept at it. And it got to the point where I had no other recourse. And so I filed a lawsuit.
For defamation.
I filed a defamation lawsuit against the couple of voice actors that did what they did. I filed a lawsuit against one of the studios that terminated me because they posted stuff on their social media that is defamatory and completely inappropriate. They terminated me and told me that they weren't going to post anything publicly. And 2 days later, they posted something publicly. And so I sat in my living room sobbing with my mom and a couple of friends and an attorney, because I didn't want to do that. I am not a litigious person. And again, I want to remind you, these are people that I thought were friends.
Yeah.
You want to talk about feeling like you were hit by a truck. Like I didn't even know which way was up. People that had been my dear friends, that I thought had been my friends for years, suddenly were turning on me or alienating themselves from me, you know, distancing themselves. And so I filed this lawsuit, and that has not worked out the way that anyone who understands the law or justice would have expected it to. But as a believer in Christ, I have to believe that God is in control. I have to believe that none of this surprised him.
Mhm.
He saw it coming. And I have been racking my brains over the last 4 years to address things, ways that I can grow from it. What can I learn from this? What does God want to teach me through this experience?
Have you I have a rejection demon as well. That's the way I think of it
That's a
from
good way to think of it.
childhood. And I went through an experience with someone who I trusted implicitly, who I believed was a best friend, stabbing me in the back, lying, doing things I just didn't think
I'm so sorry.
yeah, they were capable of, first of all, and second of all, would do to me. Um, and one of the things, I'm just bringing this up because maybe one of the things I think I learned from that is that you mentioned I'm a believer also, and you mentioned
I
what
love
am I supposed to be learning from this? And so I think sometimes God, if you still have that rejection demon or what have you, I think sometimes God strips everything away so that you're totally dependent on him again. And you let go of all those sometimes with someone who's dealt with rejection as a child, in my case anyway, will tend to make idols out of people who are close to me. Um,
Yeah.
and I think in my case, God was trying to teach me don't make an humans make terrible gods.
Oh my gosh.
And and your career is a terrible god, and these other things, these accomplishments, everything's a terrible god except for God. And I'm going to teach you that it is okay, in my case anyway, um, that you can survive something like this because at the end of the day, your foundation is intact and
Yeah.
your identity is intact as you are a beloved child of God.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter what other people think about you.
I couldn't, although, you know what? I couldn't agree more, Keri. I couldn't agree more. I have often tried to say and share the same thing with fans who've reached out to me and friends of mine. You know, all those people you look up to,
Mhm.
they're no better than you. You know what? They have their own demons. They have their own fears. They have their own insecurities, uncertainties. They have their own struggles. They are no more, they don't have it all figured out any more than you do. So you're right. It's a huge mistake to put human beings in those positions of worship because they're just as uncertain and unsure of themselves and other things as you are. Maybe they hide it a little better, but
Mhm.
privately they struggle with challenges just like you do. Um, I read something in one of my devotional books, Keri, that I just love so much, and I repeat it as much as possible because I think it's so powerful. Our biggest danger is not our weakness; it's our delusion of strength.
Hmm. Yes.
Is that awesome? Like,
Yes.
boom! It's not bad to know that you're weak. The biggest danger is thinking you're strong. Is thinking you've got it. I got this. That's the most dangerous place to be.
Mhm.
And I feel like God is, and you know what? All of you out there, like, oh, here goes Vic again, Mr. Christian, Mr. Talking, Mr. Jesus Christian, thinks he's so awesome. No, listen to me. I am no better than anyone else. I am flawed and broken. I am, I don't have anything figured out any more than anybody else. All I'm saying is, I believe there's a God and I'm not him. And I believe he loves me. And I believe he has a plan for me. And I'm trying to follow that plan.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Notice that I didn't say Catholic,
Mm.
Baptist, Presbyterian, Bible, scripture, sin, nothing. I'm just saying I'm no better than anybody else, but I know what I believe, and I know who I think that God has a plan for who he wants me to be. And I've stumbled and fallen trying to follow that path, but I don't even think that's a problem. I don't even think God minds that, because Keri, if you're a believer and you read the scripture and you do, I know that you know that even the Apostle Paul says, look, I haven't made it. I haven't achieved it, but I'm pressing toward this mark.
Yeah.
I don't have it all figured out,
Yeah.
but I'm pressing toward this goal. And that's the
Yes.
only difference.
Yeah.
And
There are a lot of people in my audience. My audience is there's believers, there's atheists, and just so you know, the atheists are very used to tolerating my talks about God. So
oh,
it's
good,
okay.
good, good,
They're very open-minded atheists.
good, because we're not the kind of people to cancel you because you don't believe what we believe.
Yes.
And therein lies one of the big differences. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There are some factions out there that if you do not agree with them, you must be destroyed. But then there are other people that are like, oh, you don't agree with me? That's cool. Let's go get an ice cream. Like you can get along with people. And you would think, Keri, that people like you and me and probably 90% of the rest of the world, or at least this country, struggles to some degree with feeling valued or feeling insecure or feeling worthy of love.
Mhm.
So many of us do. And you would think that that would bring us together. You would think that that commonality would give me empathy for you. You would think that knowing that we all share that, you would think that it would bring us closer, that we would be more understanding and more compassionate for each other. And yet, there are those people out there who have suffered the same kind of losses or challenges that we have, but they choose to lash out at other people. They choose to attack strangers.
Yeah.
They choose to try to ruin people
Yeah.
because somehow they've got it in their minds that it makes them relevant or that it gives them value or makes them feel powerful just for a minute, because it wears off quick and then you have to attack again to get that hit.
Because it's a cheap
Yeah,
substitute, and I
exactly.
think it's the wrong path. It's like it's a Band-Aid approach to feeling better, because a lot of those people, I think, haven't even acknowledged that they have some kind of, brokenness
And
or
they probably think it's because it makes them weak.
yeah.
They probably think that it's a weakness to acknowledge it. Hey, everybody, it's not. Welcome to the human race. It's not a weakness to acknowledge that you're weak, that you have challenges, that you need help. It's not a sign of weakness. And I was on Chrissy Mayr's show a few days ago,
Mhm.
and I felt compelled to pray for her. I'm like, Chrissy, has anyone ever prayed on your show before? And she goes, no. And I'm like, well, I felt compelled to pray for the haters. I felt compelled to pray for these people because the scripture tells us to do that.
Yeah.
Love your enemies. Do good to those who hurt you. Pray for those who despitefully use you. That's what it says. And so, I want so badly to have compassion and empathy, because I know that whatever is driving these people to behave the way they do is not good. It's something that hurt them.
Mhm.
It's something that somehow traumatized them years ago. And this is how it has metastasized in their brains and in their minds. And I hurt for them. I believe being a Christian means being compassionate and extending grace and compassion as it has been extended to us. But the point at which you start hurting other people, the point at which you start stepping out of your own private zone and attacking people who you have nothing to do with, that's where it becomes difficult to hold on to that compassion and empathy,
Yeah.
because now they're hurting other people, you know?
I think for anybody who wants to try this, praying for your enemies, I would say, fake it till you make it. And because sometimes, yeah, my pastor had me pray for someone who is, in my opinion, thoroughly evil. and, and the thing is, you can't do a cop out bullshit prayer either, where you're not really praying for them, you're insulting them in the prayer. You can't be like, "Dear God, please make this person stop being such a bitch."
Right,
Like,
you
that's
can't
not
say, I'd like to pray that you smite him."
yeah, you can't do
That's not
that.
really the idea behind it.
You have to really center and focus and try to, in my case, the prayers I was doing, are like, surround this person in light and love and truth. And even if it hurts you to do that kind of prayer, if you're a person who wants to practice this, even if you're not a believer, I say you fake it till you make it, because the longer I did that prayer, sure enough, it started changing my heart.
Yeah. Yep. And you know what? God will bless the effort.
Yeah.
Our our friends in Alcoholics Anonymous have a prayer that I heard once this really stuck with me. And it says, "Dear God, help me to remember that the desire to please you, in fact, pleases you."
Mm,
Think about that.
yeah.
Just knowing that we want to be better, knowing that we want to follow him, knowing that we want to please him, pleases him. Whether we screw up occasionally, whether we stumble and fall, that's going to happen because we're imperfect, flawed human beings. But I think God blesses the very fact that we want to be better.
Mhm. Yeah. Can I ask you? I have a couple questions I jotted down. I This whole experience, your brush with cancel culture, not to call back to a joke of minimizing it. What have you learned about people, like both bad and good? Like, what's some of the stuff you've learned that's like not so pleasant about humans? And what are some of the surprising good things that you've learned?
Let's start with the good. I have learned that there are people in your life who may be silent or quiet to themselves, like, they're not overly expressive. But when the chips are down, they're with you.
Mm.
I've had lots of people who I know them, we're acquaintances, maybe even casual friends, but not spent a ton of time together. Hundreds of them, perhaps thousands, that have reached out, if you include all of the very kind fans that have reached out over the years, over these last few years, and expressed support and encouragement and kindness. And I remember thinking, wow, I didn't even think this person cared that much. And conversely, the bad that I've learned is that there are people that can hug you and smile at you
Mm.
and look you right in the eyes and tell you and make you believe that you are dear friends. And the moment the going gets rough, they cut. They cut loose and they are nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
In fact, in some cases, will even throw you under the bus, either because they've decided you're a bad person, even though they do not know that for themselves. They
Mhm.
read it on Twitter. I'm sorry, you guys. That's really not the greatest place to get facts and truth. Social media is not the place you go for necessarily for whatever's there must be true.
Mm.
But these people that seem to be your friends, that you would have bet money were your friends. One of the people that led the attack against me, Keri, was somebody that I've known 20 years. 1 month before, 1 month, mid-December 2018. They had their arm around me with kissy faces and big smiles 1 month before they were on Twitter telling this story. And it just breaks my heart. It hurts so much to think of all the times we spent together.
Yeah.
All of the great times, all of the fun, all of the conversations, all of the support that we had been to each other. And suddenly you realize that they were not anywhere near as genuine friends with you through good and bad as you thought they were. So the good part is, what the good thing that I learned about people is that there are a lot of people out there that are kind of quiet and they mind their own business. And then when the going gets rough, they step in to support you and help you. And it's an unexpected blessing and joy, because it comes from people that you didn't expect it would.
Yeah. You learn.
But conversely, the bad part about humanity is that there were people in your life that you have welcomed in to your life and your dreams and your daily experiences, your career, everything, your deepest, closest personal life, and betray you and flame you and want to destroy you. That's the bad part I've learned.
Yeah. I imagine it makes you question. I have questioned before, and I think it's good to question it once in a while, but don't get hung up on it. But did you ever question, like, am I a bad judge of character? Like, how did I not see what? Because it's sort of like the rug gets pulled out from under you when someone that you thought was a good friend and who made you think, who posed for those photos with you and hugging you and giving you those that type of validation and affection and signs of strong friendship, to then betray you in that way. Did it ever make you think, like, I don't even know if I can judge who's a good person anymore?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In fact, I'm pretty old. I'm pretty old. And I say that because I came from a different generation. When I was little, everybody was your friend. Unless they physically did something or said something to prove that they weren't. So my point is, the default position was, oh, yeah, the guy that pumps our gas every week at the Arco, yeah, he's our friend.
Yeah.
The lady that bags our groceries, oh, yeah, she's our friend. Oh,
Yeah.
that guy that waves at us when we park our car at church, he's our friend. You assume the best about people. That's the generation I came from, and it's the generation before mine and before mine and before mine. But somewhere since then, more recently, that paradigm has changed. And now the norm is trust no one until they prove that they're deserving of your friendship, or until they do something to prove that they're your friends. It's completely the opposite.
It's so sad.
This world has turned upside down in so many ways. What's bad is now good. What was good is bad. What was right is wrong. What was wrong is right. Black is now white. White is now black. So many things are upside down from where they have always been. And one of them is this, that you can no longer assume. It's a mistake, and it's naive to assume that everyone's just a good person. And that is, I'm so, it saddens me to say that.
It's sad.
You can naively think that everybody you meet is really great. Like you. I just met you, right? And you said at the beginning of the show how you just felt this instant connection. I feel that all the time. Like when I meet good people, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're friends now. Not so fast.
We're similar in that way. In that I have to, because I don't want that to change. Like, I think it's good for you to assume the best of people until they give you a reason to assume otherwise. However, what I have learned is, I guess maybe just to have my eyes open a little more, and in your case, maybe that's the same, like, to trust my gut more, because sometimes I'm a I'm a master at ignoring gut. Like, and the past few years, I've just in general, I've learned, like, oh, your gut. I think our modern culture tells us, uh, there's no such thing as intuition or gut feeling, and if you don't have an exact reason why, but I keep getting this lesson over and over where it's like, "Oh, I should trust red flags. I should pay attention to them. They might mean something. They might actually mean something." I was gonna pull up a quote for you real quick because you were talking about how everything's upside down. Do you know this Bible verse? I think this describes the times that we're in right now to a T. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. I think that's where we're at
I do too.
in so many ways.
I do.
Everything's upside down.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. And what really saddens and troubles me is that 95% of the world doesn't want it. The
Oh,
vast majority of people do not like the trajectory of all of this stuff.
oh yeah.
But it's this 5% that's so loud and so unrelenting that by sheer noise, they push their agendas. They get, you know what I mean? They get what they want. They get people to kowtow to their opinions. They get people to roll over and bend over and accept things that they don't want because they just want these people to stop yelling at them, stop, just stop being so hateful. And it's really sad to me that the vast majority of people, I mean, go out on the street, take a microphone, see if I'm lying. The vast majority of people can't stand some of the stuff that's going on right now. And yet it's going.
Yeah.
Why? Because nobody's standing up to it, because they're letting this 5% march all over everything that the other 95% hold to be valuable and dear and good and right and true. You know that old saying, I've said it before, and I'm sure you've heard it before, and I hate to repeat it, but it's so relevant. The only thing necessary for evil to triumph
It's for
is for
good men
good
to do
men
nothing.
to do nothing.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot where we are too. And I think that good men are starting to and had better wake up.
Yeah.
Um,
How has all of the events of the past few years, how has it changed you, both for the better, like, and the bad? Like, do you? Because I saw something where you said you've entirely changed the way that you interact with fans now. Like, you
well,
won't give.
I did for a while.
Okay.
I did for shortly after that, for the first several events and public appearances that I did, I didn't go anywhere near anybody.
Hmm.
And then you know what started happening, Keri? And it happened this weekend again in Orlando, at least a dozen times. I used to hug people all the time. I'm not talking about some pervy, twisted sexual thing. I'm talking about kindness.
Yeah.
I would do it all. I'm like, yo, bro, what's up? And I walk up and hug. Men, women, young, old, big, small, smelly, clean. It didn't matter, because that's just who I am. I love people. I like people. I care about people. I believe that's what God wants for us as well. So right after all of this happened, I just kept my distance from everybody. And it almost drove me to tears, because literally fans would come up to me and go, can I hug you?
Hmm.
And how pathetic that they had to ask.
Yeah.
That happened this weekend again, several times. And they would stand there awkwardly. Now imagine the courage that it must take to be a fan on the other side of the table. And I've signed this, and thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to meet you. Thanks for coming. The interaction is over, and there are 100 people behind them. And they want so desperately to have that short, simple, innocent connection. And they go, and you can see their faces. They're so, you know what I mean? They're almost embarrassed. And I mean, I'm tearing up right now.
And they used to not have to ask.
It shouldn't be that way. And here are these, who knows what's going on in their lives? Who knows what hardships these people are going through? And that simple little affirmation of a hug with somebody who they admire or whose work they appreciate, to embrace them, would give them fuel to fight their battles for another month. And they have to ask for it. That's just wrong. I think it's wrong. And so, in answer to your question, when this all started, for the first, I don't know, year or so of events that I did do, the ones that I actually did get to do that weren't canceled, I would keep my distance. And if somebody asked me, I would be like, everybody, they just asked me, okay?
You would announce it.
Sure, everybody knows, you know, I'm not assaulting somebody. By the way, guys, I got bad news for you. This is not assault. Mm-hmm. When you put your arm around somebody's shoulder to take a picture, it's not assault. I know a lot of you wish it were, but it's not. And so for the first year, I kind of kept my distance. But then over these last several years, I have loosened up on that a little bit, because I know that the fans appreciate it.
Yeah.
I think 99.9% of the fans appreciate that you come from behind your desk, your table, and you come around the desk and you give them a hug and you take a picture with them and you make them feel special.
Yes.
You acknowledge them and you make them feel like they had your full attention for that minute and a half. That's priceless to some people, a lot of people. And that's who I always wanted to be. I always wanted to demonstrate the love of God and kindness and acceptance for people. And it's only people that are perverted themselves that twist it into something perverted. Yeah. Oh, look at him hugging that 7-year-old. He must be a pedophile. No. You're a pervert. And so you see everything through that lens. You can't imagine that there could actually be people out there who have paternal, kind, innocent, genuine love and affection for other human beings, because you don't. So you can't imagine that there are other people that do, but there are.
It's that projection.
Exactly.
So where are you at today? Like, where are you at today with your career? Do you feel like you're still in the cancellation? Are there still...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm still in it, because even now, when I get announced at events, I am kidding you not, the same 5 or 10 people who incidentally don't even know me. These are not people that I filed defamation charges against. These are complete strangers. I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating.
No, I believe you.
They could knock on my door right now and I could open the door and I have no idea who they are. I don't know them. They haven't spent 10 seconds with me. They don't know me. They have nothing to do with my lives. They are perfect strangers. But they got a little hit of that attention and they're riding it for all they can get out of it. Even now, when I get announced at an event, the same 5 or 10 people come out of the woodwork. They must have me in a Google search engine, right? They must just get themselves alerted anytime they see me doing anything, and they jump in to try to sabotage it all, to try to ruin it, to try to get me canceled, to threaten and bully the organizers or maybe even other guests. I mean, they don't care. They don't care.
They try to isolate you from everyone by making everyone afraid to associate with you.
And
Yeah.
to what end? Like, to what end? What do they think is going to happen? You know what I mean? There's no logic behind it at all. There's no logic behind it. And yet some of these organizers have these people writing fake negative Yelp reviews on their business.
Oh, yeah.
Not because they went to their business and had a bad experience, just because they've never been to their business. In fact, they live 20 states away. But they write this garbage just to try to punish someone who wants to bring in a personality that a lot of their customers want to meet.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
I had a one of the gosh, this is crazy, but you may not be aware of this, but there have been a lot of cancellations and wars, we call them, in social justice crusades in the knitting community, the online knitting community.
We talked,
And
you're right,
we did
about this a little bit in at the
in
conference.
Florida. And so over the years, I've interviewed several of the knitting designers and yarn makers who have been targeted. And it's always the same MO. It's just like with you. They have people who, anytime they're confirmed for a knitting convention, they'll have these same old haters who come out of the woodwork and to contact the organizers. Some of them have been canceled from conventions. And so one of them, she had some great advice. And I think this is, it sounds like it's similar to your case. The people who they're targeting to try and get them to stop associating with the targets, those people, to them, it appears like a lot of people. Oh, it's online. There's a lot of drama. I'm afraid. But one of these knitters, she quantified it. They hired a PR person who said, you need to quantify it and figure out who these people are as best you can. And it turns out it was just a small handful of maybe 5 people with multiple accounts, multiple profiles, and they're very loud. And like you said, once she had that information, it was much more, I guess, empowering, or it was easier for her to counter it by saying, look, you're going to get this. This is going to happen when you book me, or whatever, this association. You just need to know it's these same 5 people like every time.
You know what? I have that conversation now. I have that conversation with everybody who ever approaches me and says, I'd like to bring you into my show, or I'd like to have you at my event. And I'm like, you know what? I'm honored. I would love to join you. You'll have a great turnout. But before we sign any contracts, I want your word that you are not going to bow to this garbage, because I can promise you, you're going to get some noise. Ignore it. Every organizer without exception that has ignored it and just moved past it has had a successful, great event.
Yeah.
Fans were so glad that they held to their guns, and everybody had a great time. It was wonderful. Just don't bend to that stuff. I have that conversation with everybody that ever reaches out to me about an event.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate you have to do that, but I'm glad you do, that you make them aware ahead of time.
It's very unfortunate. It's a hard conversation to have.
Yeah.
You know, because it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
I mean, I was, I'm sure the haters will be glad to hear this. I was humiliated. I sat in my house those first several months, taking hundreds of hits every day. And I would get messages from people I went to college with, who I have not spoken to in all these years. Hey, man, oh my gosh, I heard about what you're going through, and I just want to wither up and die. You know, I'm so embarrassed and so humiliated. And that may be what they were going for, but I have made my peace with the mistakes that I've made. I've not committed any crimes. I certainly don't think that I've done anything to deserve losing my career or being treated the way I have. You would think that I raped and murdered these people's families. That some of the caustic, I mean, vicious, hateful things that people say on the internet, you would think, you know what I mean? You
Yeah,
would think
putting
that
your
I
balls in
murdered
a
all of their families. And I'm like, what in the world is driving this hatred? What do you think I've done? It would be like giving somebody the death penalty for going 65 and a 35. I mean, it's disproportionate, you know? And I don't understand it. But as somebody has often said, I've heard said many times, it's much more about them than it is about you.
Oh,
It's much
100%.
more about them and what they're struggling with than it is about anything you did or didn't do.
Yeah.
And
It's that resentment and misery.
I'm just a lucky guy with the target on his back.
Yeah. I'm going to switch gears here because I want
Good,
to talk.
let's switch gears.
I want to talk to you a little bit about, in the context of what happened to you in cancel culture, just where we're at culturally today. And we can get specific and talk about the arts and entertainment, but I'm sure you follow some of well, I know you do because you've hung out with the Geeks and Gamers guys and Friday Night Tights and what have you. Just the intrusion into entertainment and media of this ideology that I call, many call woke ideology or social justice, and this sort of censorious nature that's crept into entertainment and people being afraid to broach certain topics or afraid, even comedians afraid to tell certain jokes and sort of self-censorship and stuff like that. Where do you think we're at in all of that? Do you think we're starting to come out of it?
I hope so. I hope so, because once again, it does not represent the ideals of the vast, vast majority of the people in this country. And I'm not really sure where people started getting the crazy idea in their minds that the world was supposed to revolve around them. You know what I mean? Oh, well, I want this, so everybody has to agree with me. No, everybody doesn't. And I can promise you, you don't agree with a lot of what other people think. That's, but somewhere along the line, and I think social media has contributed a lot to this. Social media has contributed to giving everybody a voice online to spew whatever crazy ideas or whatever philosophies or whatever their opinion is. And that's okay. Say what you want. We're supposed to have free speech, for better or worse. But that's not where it ends anymore. It was one thing to say, oh, you and I, like I said, you and I could have a discussion about something we don't agree on, and then we can go have dinner. But now, if you don't agree with somebody else's position, they want to destroy you. They want to ruin you. And what's funny is it doesn't seem to go both ways. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, these people that are attacking me, for instance, I am quite sure that we don't agree on a lot of things, but I don't attack them. I'm not calling their employer and trying to get them fired. I'm not calling their insurance company and making up lies to get their insurance canceled. I'm not canceling their, you know what I mean? Why not? I mean, I don't agree with a lot of what they believe, but I don't have any desire to ruin their lives. What's the difference there?
They're authoritarians, people who want to control others, whether through social pressure or, cancel mobs or the government or whatever. They're not content, and they can be on the right or the left.
Yes.
But people who want to control others. And I think in the past couple years in particular, with a lot of the policies we enacted to fight COVID, that a lot of those people who have that in their nature felt emboldened because they were given this power to scold others.
And why do they, let's take it back to its root. Let's get philosophical. And why do they want to do that? Because it makes them feel powerful and it makes them feel important. And why do they want to feel powerful and important? because
Because
they're
they don't.
insecure,
They're
because
insecure.
because they're because they're lonely and they're miserable and they don't like the way their lives are going, or they don't feel like anybody would care whether they disappeared tomorrow. You see,
They
if you
wanna
take it back to its real core, all of this stuff comes from the very same foundational problem.
Yeah,
The only difference is how people choose to deal with it.
yeah. It comes from that lack of control. I mean, I spent some time in AA, and a lot of times people would talk about how the disease was the need to control everything and that alcohol was merely our
Yeah.
particular symptom. But that, you know, and I believe this, I think almost anyone could benefit from going to an AA meeting because you can get something out of it about letting go of that,
Yeah,
that
I
need
was I
to
was seeing
yeah.
someone who was in AA, and I went to a couple of meetings with her because I was interested in what they had to say, and so much of it is based on the scripture, and I
Mhm.
mean, it's so funny to me that they call, they switch out all these words, to make it a little more generic, but it's so obviously, biblically sound, founded in the Bible. The concepts are so uh, biblical
Yeah.
in nature. What was I going to say about that? You just said that.
Control.
Yeah, and so back at its very, 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 very foundational source, people feel insignificant. They feel invisible. They feel unimportant. They feel unnoticed. They feel unworthy of love. Maybe they feel not valued. And here is where Christianity comes in. Our value is in being a precious creation of God.
Mhm.
Our significance and our worthiness comes from the creator of the universe, not from a bunch of bozos on the internet. And if people could just get a hold of that, you know what I mean? If they could just grasp the fact that the God of the universe loves me, he created me special and valuable and worthy in who I am, not in anything I've done or will do.
Mhm.
Not because I'm gorgeous, not because I'm talented, just because of who I am. If people could grasp that, they would find so much more peace and security and confidence in their lives and
Mhm.
comfort in just being who they are and being comfortable in that.
I I'm shaking my head because this is a life lesson I have learned. I think we connected immediately because I felt like we've learned some similar lessons in different ways, but
Sure. I'm sure.
yeah.
I'm sure.
So what brings you joy lately? What is bringing you joy lately?
Star Trek brings me joy.
Okay. Perfectly acceptable answer. My Wednesday night co-host is a huge Trekkie. He's gonna love this episode.
Um, I have a lot of joy in my life. I am incredibly grateful to God. I wake up every morning and I drop to my knees right beside my bed and I just commit the day to God and thank him for another day of life. I thank him for the air that went in and out of my lungs while I was completely unconscious and had nothing to do with it. Um, I thank him for the light coming through the window. Um, I thank him for, I mean, there are plenty of things to be joyful about. Health,
Mhm.
opportunities, big and small, friends. Um, I love being active. I love people. I love interacting with people. I love Star Trek. Did I say
Yeah.
that? Um, what I mean by that is I
You
created this show, Star Trek Continues, that I'm very proud of, and it's online. Anybody that's interested, StarTrekContinues.com. We created 11 full-length live-action episodes that finished the original series of Star Trek that never had a proper ending when it was on television. It was canceled abruptly.
You
And
did everything, right? You did the editing?
well, I did a lot.
Okay.
I brought in a lot of good people that did a lot. But I started the show and cast the show and exec produced it. I directed some of the episodes. I came up with some of the stories. I edited all of the episodes. I had my hand in everything to some degree. If I got a script from somebody else, I would tweak it to match my vision. If we needed costumes, original costumes made for new characters, I would help pick out the fabric. I mean, that's how involved I was.
Yeah.
It was my baby. It was my dream. And I am incredibly proud of it. And I think it's something that will far outlast me when I'm long gone. People will still be enjoying it. We've got upwards of 15 million views. And
Wow.
and our studio is still standing. We rebuilt the entire soundstage from the original series of Star Trek. And one weekend every month, we have what's called a fan appreciation weekend, where we open up the studio and we walk people through and let them take all the pictures and videos they want. And I'm telling you, Keri, it's like stepping into a dream. It's like nothing. If you have any love of Star Trek in your life or your background or your
Mhm.
upbringing, it is like nothing you will ever experience, because it is an exact replica of the original soundstage.
Where is it at?
Kingsland, Georgia. It's right outside Jacksonville, Florida.
Okay.
In fact, what's today? Tuesday? Friday, I'm flying down there because I go down and I give the tours myself because I love it. I love sharing it with people. And if you want, all of you that are listening or watching, go to neutralzonestudios.com. Neutral Zone Studios are the people that own and administrate it now. And one weekend every month. We started in September. We wait until it gets cool in South Georgia. September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. There will be one weekend each month where the studio will be open and hundreds of people come from all over the country. And it's free of charge. Did I mention that? It's free
Wow.
of charge,
Okay.
and we just do it for love of Star Trek. And we let people walk. And I guide the walkthroughs, and I tell people about, oh, where'd you get that, and how'd you make that, and where'd that come from, and how do you know how big that is, and how did we know about this, and take all the pictures and video you want. It's a wonderful experience. Apart from making the series, it's my favorite thing is watching people walk through it
Walk
and
through.
enjoy it.
I think we need to send any regular viewers of Deprogram will know. We need to send Mystery Chris down there for a tour because
Yeah,
he
you
would love
do.
it. He's my Wednesday. Let me tell you, he's still in his wallet to this day carries this card that he got when he was a little kid that says he's in like the Starfleet or whatever. And I
I
mean,
love this guy.
he's a huge, it's sort of a recurring thing that he's like,
Oh
Keri,
my
by
God,
the end
I
of this
love it.
whole friendship, I will get you into Star Trek.
Oh,
He's
listen.
like,
Yeah, you know what? Since we're friends, you should come with him. But
yeah.
because it is a profound experience. I mean, it is an incredibly impactful experience. I mean, everybody knows Star Trek. Everybody.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it doesn't even matter if you were a big fan or not. Everybody knows Star Trek. Everybody knows Captain Kirk, Mr. Spock, Dr. McCoy. And the sets are absolutely beautiful. They are in exactly the same footprint as the original soundstage was. So, yeah, get Mystery Chris down there as soon as possible.
Awesome. I love this.
I was telling Anthony Acumia, because he's a big Star Trek fan. I'm like, Anthony, get your butt down. Come on, get your butt down to the studio, man. I would love to give you a private walkthrough of our beautiful Enterprise.
That sounds like so much fun. Okay, so what else? Where can people find you, first of all, if they wanna follow you, and what else are you working on that you're excited about?
I'm working on a lot of things, actually. I'm very, very grateful. I I'm working on a couple of original animated shows. I'm actually directing them as well as voice acting in them. Anime Matsuri, which is a big convention in Houston,
I know it.
I have teamed up with them. They are starting a dubbing studio. called AM Studios. And we've already dubbed a couple of features, and we are looking at some titles for some series. We're going to be starting our own dubbing of anime, and I am one of the core members of the team. I will be casting, I'll be directing, I'll be voice acting. I'm very, very excited about that. I'm working on several audiobooks that are, some of them are already on Audible. You could look them up. And I'm working on another one right now. I've got several events lined up for next year already. And of course, the tours, the open house at the Star Trek studio. I'm working on a new recording album, a new music album. I just am about to release a music book of sheet music of 16 or 17 of the more well-known songs from my CDs that fans would know. There's a
You've got a lot going on.
A lot going on, and I've got some live action film projects coming up in the new year. So I'm incredibly grateful.
The anime Matsuri thing sounds really, that's very encouraging, because it sounds like it's a little bit, you know, I'm very excited about new media projects, and I don't just mean online. I mean people who are working outside the Hollywood system, or you've got Epic
Right.
Verse, which is trying to do original content now. You've got Eric July, who's doing his own original comic books, and this sounds like this is sort of in that vein of like, we're just going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The people behind it are tired of the cancel culture kind of stuff, just like, a lot of them have experienced similar things to me. And they don't think that has any place in the industry. It's like, why do I care who the guy that mows my lawn voted for?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Does his politics or his beliefs have to do with him being good at mowing lawns? Answer, it's rhetorical. Nothing. It has nothing to do with anything. And that's what's happened. I'm good at what I do. I'm a good voice actor. I'm not the greatest voice actor of all time. I know that. I'm fine with that. But I am good at what I do. And regardless of my beliefs, regardless of my values, regardless of my politics, what do any of those have to do with being a good voice actor and being good at your job? Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. So we've started this studio, and we've got a lot of people that want to work with us, and we're going to create the best content that will be comparable to any other dubbing studio's quality of content. Great voice acting, great directing, great mixing, good projects, and hopefully projects that are uplifting.
Yeah.
Projects
I like that.
that make you walk away feeling good about life and feeling, like humanity isn't
Terrible.
a nightmare,
Did you see the new Top Gun Maverick?
Oh, I sure did.
I enjoyed it. Did you like it? I
Very
felt like
much.
it's like old school. It's uplifting. It's got
That's
this.
why it did so well.
Yeah.
Once again, the vast majority is in one camp, and there's this small group in the other camp that just makes so much noise. And I loved it. And I think the more people that make things like that, they're going to do well, because I think the public is hungry.
Yes.
For that kind of content, that
Right.
kind of something that just you leave feeling good, feeling, wow, what a great story, or what an uplifting, story. What a great message. What a great theme. What awesome characters. What a redeeming film that was, whatever.
It's universal truths rather than some trendy ideological lecture of whatever's popular right now. It's like, no, it's a universal truth, universal message about friendship and loyalty and redemption and all those
Yeah.
narratives that are universal.
Yep. Look at
Yeah.
the top 10 grossing films of all time. What are
What's
they?
up there? Is Casablanca up there? No, not grossing, but
Listen, E.T.,
oh, E.T.
Star Wars.
Okay.
I mean, things of stories that are uplifting
Yeah.
and stories that are about redemption and forgiveness and compassion and helping people. You know what I mean? Like, it's so obvious. You know what I mean? It's right in front of our faces. It's so obvious.
You know what wasn't on there? Lady Ghostbusters. I'm kidding.
Uh,
I'm just kidding.
I think it was probably number 11.
Number 11.
It was just outside.
Vic, it has been so enjoyable talking with you today
Oh my God.
and getting to know you a bit better.
It has
And
been my pleasure, Keri.
I want for anybody who wants to follow you, who has this, maybe this is their first introduction to you, where can they find you online?
Well, I'm still on Twitter. I shouldn't be, but I am. So they can follow me at Vic Mignogna there. I post encouraging things. I post announcements where I'm going to be for different events. I have an online fan club called the Risembool Rangers, Risembool, Risembool
Cool.
Rangers. That's a reference to the character in Full Metal Alchemist that I played. We've got roughly 20,000 members, and it's all free to join, and you would instantly have friends all over the world that like what you like and make a lot of new friends that way. It's moderated, so there's no garbage, no drama, just good, encouraging, wholesome stuff. Star Trek Continues on Facebook, Star Trek Continues official group, and Star Trek Continues our main page on Facebook. I also am on Cameo. If anyone is familiar with my work and would like to get a personal cameo, a personal video, either for yourself or a friend that you think may like one, I'm on Cameo. You can just find that by going to cameo.com and search my name. I do a live stream on Twitch every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Central.
I didn't know that. 6 p.m. on Twitch. Okay, we're going to put all this below in the description.
Oh, cool.
All the links.
I also want to apologize, Keri, if I talk too much.
No, you don't talk too much.
I'm Italian. You know what I mean? And I get passionate and I get fired up about things.
Do you talk with your hands like my friend Mike?
I do.
You don't ever have to apologize for that. Well, I've enjoyed it, and I want to have you back anytime you want to come back. We do. So in addition to these interviews, we do a live show on Mondays and Fridays where we just kind of talk about what's going on in the news. If you ever want to come and do that, or on Wednesday night with my Trekkie co-host, that's more maybe your speed. We do pop culture shows. Ooh, so we do different topics. Intriguing. Yeah. Like we've done topics like they're sort of more evergreen. They're not really topical like a lot of YouTube channels. So we'll do like the trope of the lazy father, like Homer Simpson, you know, where did that come from? And the stereotypes of dads, or we just did one on blaxploitation films and, you know, just different topics. And
well, I consider it a great privilege to have joined you today, and I will look forward to the opportunity to do it again soon.
Cool.
So thank you so much for having me. And to all of you guys that watched and listened, thank you. Keri is the real deal. She is a genuine jewel. And it was a privilege to meet you and make the contact with you. And I've enjoyed it very, very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So have I.
You and your guy and all of your listeners a very, very Merry Christmas, a great holiday. Hope for good things in 2023 for all of you.
Yes. Merry Christmas. Thank you, Vic.
Thank you, sweetie.
Thank you to today's sponsor, the Church on the Square of Georgetown, Texas, which happens to be my church. My church is no longer allowed to advertise on Facebook, which is unfortunate because that's how I and a lot of other church members originally found them. They've been told that they violate community standards. There's no details there of what that means, but you guys know the score. Anyway, since they're not allowed to advertise, I'm here to give them a plug. You can find them online at thechurchonthesquare.org. You can also find videos of all the sermons and some other kinds of content on their YouTube page at Church on the Square. You can also join us. If you happen to be in the Georgetown, Texas area, we meet every Sunday at Ken's Guitars, that's Kenz, Ken's Guitars, right on the Georgetown Square. We meet outside, right on the square. Sometimes, if the weather's nice, you might find us there. You might find us outside in front of Ken's. But if you're local, I hope to see you. Thank you.